Hey guys, welcome back to the 10-8 Fightcast. We're back from our little vacation, if you will, staycation.
Traincation.
Traincation, yes, traincation. That's a good word
You
for
had
it.
a traincation. I had a workcation.
With some training also involved.
With some training involved, yeah. Like
Yeah,
a little
so-
bit, like I call it like summer camp, like spring, like yeah, like that's kind of like how like my fight, like as a coach now, like seeing other coaches, it feels like coming back to like a summer camp or something
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
So it was like a workcation kind of thing. It was
So, for those of you who might not have tuned into our last episode, Trevor was coaching students at the IKF in Myrtle Beach.
Yep.
How did it go?
Had a blast, man. Anish brought home another tournament win. Had a great showing on Friday night. Got to help out my friend Jarrett Church on Friday. Corner one of his students that I've worked with at seminars for in the past, and I just kind of helped coach her along throughout the fight. Jarrett, like it's at these tournaments, I get pulled into a lot of corners sometimes because I can just call it as I see it during a fight.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm only good at one thing, and I stick to it, and that's seeing what goes on with punches and kicks. Like me doing it, not so much, but at these, and so that was a great way to start the evening. Next morning, I had Vic compete in the point kickboxing tournament, trying to get him
So
prepared
you had
for one
students on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks, right?
of his. No,
Well, you're talking
but that's the thing, like what's tough is trying to also be a person.
Right.
So the
Yeah.
one upside is that I had my Saturday afternoon, evening free, so I had a day off, like a half day.
Right.
And
Some
man,
time to
and
decompress
it
be
was so nice. And like Sunday, so yeah, Sunday it was still like I had two people fighting on Sunday, and so Saturday morning Vic competed in the point kickboxing tournament, getting him ready for like a full fight. But what's great is that he did PKB against Tony Rossi, who is an active MMA fighter and kickboxer,
So
and
that's
sometimes
who Grant Williams is going to be fighting on Fight For It.
is he really?
That's what I heard.
All right,
That's the
well,
rumor.
I'll keep the footage to myself. I
The
mean, but
rumor
like,
is Tony Rossi.
but Vic ended up getting a win over Tony Rossi. I was like, fuck, he's fast, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he's like Vic's a future, flyweight competitor, and so to see him, this is about his first time really getting coached by somebody. He's new to coaching, being coached, competition, stuff like that. He was there to help corner Piper,
Who is your youngest student, right? Or your youngest adult student?
she's still in high school, and I'll talk about that in a second. That's wild. But then, yeah, Vic did that, and I helped a lot of other fighters warm up. Like I helped Emily Keck warm up, held paddles for her. My students were like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "It's my homie." And like, when I hold paddles for her and mitts, like we have an immediate like. Our footwork just catches
Shake
really
and
well.
fucking
Like
pop,
we can,
too, as
we
we
can,
know.
we can fucking stick and move with each other on paddles, so that was fun. Helped wrap some other kids' hands running around, like, and then, had Saturday just to decompress.
Yeah.
And guess what I still did? I watched some fights. Like I hung out and I watched fights. And it was nice. And then Sunday, Piper, my youngest student, who is just turned 18,
Right.
is still in high school. Man, she lost a tough decision to someone with just more experience and someone that's a full-ass adult. Like, and I was having some really big flashbacks. I told her I was very proud because, man, like, when I fought in high school, I wasn't that good. Like, she did great. She was like, man, the weekend got to me. I'm like, it happens. You're a teenager, dude. Like, this is like what, and seeing like her learn what life is ahead of her. Like,
Right.
it's like, man, growing up fighting is
She has
tough.
10
It's
years
tough.
before she enters her athletic prime.
Exactly.
It's
Like and it just showed like
Oh,
how much more of a fighter she is than I ever was. Jillian Jessup had a tough
The
fight.
juggernaut.
The juggernaut. Like she fought someone where like Jillian's only mistake in this fight is she's like, man, I gotta stick to my weight class.
Jillian only has tough fights. I mean,
She
in
does,
terms
but,
of
like,
when she's winning, it's
she fought a chick
she fucks people up.
that's undefeated. And Jillian was the smaller person in this fight.
Wow,
Like
that's
this
rare.
other chick had like a good like 2 inches on her and had to cut legit weight. Where Jillian woke up on weight,
Walking
which for a
around.
tournament, I don't want people to cut that much weight. You need to be a bit more durable if
Right.
you're potentially going to fight
You
twice.
gotta have longevity.
And so she could make 47. She decided to fight at 53, but she faced someone that cuts down from like 70,
Wow.
75, a
Wow.
former competitive bodybuilder, and Jillian had an almost 10-8
I've seen this
performance.
girl. I've seen this girl. You're talking
Yeah,
about,
she Jillian had an almost 10-8 performance in the third round. had a really close second round where she got a sweep, and I was hoping that would be enough to keep her ahead. The other chick just had more horsepower and everything, where Jillian was starting to land more volume and stay tight and active, but Jillian slugged it the fuck out with her.
Yeah.
Like in the first round. And I was like, Jillian, I don't know what it is that you have inside you, but it is so special. And like I told her, I was like, you have a gift of war, kid. Like, she's this artistic, like, sciencey type. But she has this gift of war, man. Like, that third round when she came out, like, she was the fucking juggernaut in that third round. And, like, that other lady was like, I didn't want to be in there in the third. And I was like, man, tough performances to round out the weekend. But at the same time, I was like, guys, you're kids. Like, Jillian just turned 20, I think.
I remember when she had her
20.
I remember when she had her first MMA fight, and obviously it didn't go her way, but that was a situation where 90% of people would have just quit on the stool.
Exactly.
And as soon as I saw that, I was like, all right, well, this chick's a fucking dog.
Yeah,
so she'll probably be all right.
I had originally met Jillian when she was in high school, because she was training with Johnny Kianski for a little while when he was out of Rapid or Retro Fitness or whatever it was, and I would go see him. I'd pop in, and he was like, hey, this teenager, she's going to be sharp one day. And I was like, cool. And now, like, I'm working with, like, Jillian, like, when I saw her in that fight, like, that chick she fought was legitimately 6'1", and that fight was at 170 pounds. And you were you there at that fight, or you just saw the footage?
I just saw the footage.
I was there, dude. Jillian's face was hamburger meat afterwards.
I saw the picture.
I saw her in the locker room, and I just went, kid, are you okay? And she just went, I guess it could be worse. And I just went, oh my God, you've got it. Like, you know, like
you're going to be fine.
I was like, you're going to be okay in this game. And like, we started working together more after that fight.
Right.
Like, and, you know, so it was a great, great weekend. And I love just the community of it, you know, like, and even seeing these younger kids. I got to bring along, like, you know, Vic as an assistant coach, brought my buddy Mike Asmar, who's like an OG of this fight scene, and Jackson Wink, like, you know, former student, and he had never really cornered a Muay Thai fighter, been to a Muay Thai tournament. He's only known, like, the MMA culture. So I got to expose guys to, like, this thing that I've been doing forever, where I just go to these fights and tournaments, and they get to meet my buddies and interact.
Plus, it's a melting pot of different cultures around striking.
Yeah, dude.
It's like, it's the kickboxing guys, it's the Dutch guys, it's the Muay Thai guys.
There's boxers there that are just like, man, I don't give a fuck. Like, go ahead and kick me in the leg, I'm gonna punch you. Like, you meet some wild cats at these, but there's also, like, it's just this great tight-knit community that kind of just, like, been growing throughout time.
People who love stand and bang.
Yeah, I mean, no, but it's way more than that. People just kind of wanting to be happy, and this is the only way they know how to be happy. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, that's it. And, you know, Mike Asmar and Vic, they got to see, like, this side of this community that sometimes, like, the MMA culture is its own thing. And like, you know, like, I get it, but, like, I don't know, the Muay Thai culture can be, like, a bit more, like, tight-knit. And can be very much like people will stand like forehead to forehead and talk to each other. Mm-hmm. Where like the MMA community is still going to be a lot more online.
Yeah, definitely.
Like that's what I appreciate about the Muay Thai community. If like coaches like we will corner against and with each other in the same weekend. And yeah, you know, and it's weird. Like we're really okay with hitting each other. Like we are. Like that's the thing. Like some people can get like shaken up about it in MMA. Like I get it. Like but with Muay Thai, it's much more just like respectfully. We're probably going to punch each other in the mouth at the end of this conversation. It is like how it goes across in that community, and like you love that kind of stuff.
There's
and,
a
like
big social aspect to it.
Yeah, and you also have like a lot of people that are just it's a deeper meaning to do like just striking. Mm-hmm. You know, so there's a lot more like attention sometimes in MMA where people are doing this because like they just want to do it.
Yeah, like,
there's
a lot of people that
have like
just do this.
They need to do this kind of thing.
Yeah,
like where people that do MMA go like, oh, you think I'll do that? Yeah, we're like you meet a lot more lifers, if that makes sense. You meet a lot more like the old heads, and it's even like the guys that are my age that've been in it for like 15 years.
Got the fucking
20 years, like
worn out, raggedy ass Yakao shin guards that have just seen wars.
Like, yeah, man, it's like, oh hey, we're still doing this. I don't know, it's just like this.
Anytime I see somebody,
and it's kind of like getting to introduce like your kids to like these other kids. It's like, oh hey, let's get our puppies together. And it's great, you know.
Like a dog park.
It's like a fucked up dog park.
Fucked up dog park.
But yeah, it's also like kind of like summer camp at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like me and my buddies, like we see each other.
Especially
like,
this particular event.
It's so regular. Like those Myrtle Beach ones and like the IKF Worlds, like all these fights are always kind of like being there for 4 days around your buddies. We're all stressed out. We can also see each other, make a joke. Fucking, and then like, it helps out a lot.
Right,
like,
right.
You know, sometimes MMA events can be in, out, like, what's
and they also
can
be a little intense,
Yeah.
Between the corners, between the fighters, between...
There's
everything.
a lot more make-believe animosity in MMA fights.
Testosterone.
Oh, and it's a lot more, like, fake testosterone.
Both exogenous,
and, like, and where, like, at these Muay Thai tournaments, people are like, okay, yeah, we're just going to fight. Mm-hmm. Like, the corners, like, you don't have time to have beef with a corner. Right. We have to fight other teams. Yeah. Like, you'll see brackets of team versus team on some brackets. Like, and sometimes it's like you're fighting 5 or 6 different teams throughout the weekend. So it's like you get accustomed to, like, in some tournaments, like, me and my buddies have cornered with and against each other over the same weekend. Like, it's how it be. Like just shut the fuck up and do it. Like, and that's what that community. And it's you get a lot of that in, like, the pure jiu-jitsu community as well.
Yeah, a ton of that, and especially back when there were grappling events like every month and a half in this area, back before COVID. It was like, all right, if I continue to weigh this and go to tournaments in this area, I will see this guy over and over and over again, and as long as he keeps training and I keep training, we're probably both going to stay around the same rank. Yeah. So it's just like, I remember...
who's going to go where with
it? Exactly, yeah. I mean, I remember having the same opponent, like, 3 different events back to back, and just being like, hey, good to see you again. Trained with that guy several times since then.
Yeah, and it just be that way. And I love that my students will, like, meet other kids these terms, like, hey, I'm going to go train with this guy on this weekend. Is that cool? And I'm like, yes, go.
It is cool.
Like, it is cool
very
as
cool.
Fuck.
It's very cool.
It is dope as fuck.
That's one thing I like about
do that.
That's one thing I love about Cody, and one thing I love about you is that you
we'll both tell you go
cross
training,
and not just encourage it, but, like, constantly preaching the benefits of it, and
you'll still see Cody and I will, like, go back and forth and be like, if our students come by, like, they did this, and it's like, dope, appreciate it, and then that's that,
and cross training is one of the biggest things, and also that I think most people are just like. A lot of these older school gyms don't like it, and I'm just like, no, that's not. Like, Sess and I were talking about this, and it's like, the gyms that you're in the same city as, it might seem like you're competing for students, but in reality, you're not.
No.
The students are going to go where they're going.
And I've stressed that to, like, the other Muay Thai coaches around here, where I'm like, y'all need to get out of your backyard more, because, like, it is, if it's us against us here, that's different. However, if we're in different brackets at a tournament, our guys need to be training together for that.
Yeah, I mean, we're
here. And it's like, and then, like, the area's understood that. Like, people around here still fight each other in the fights locally and in the same tournaments. And they will also still now train with each other. And it's like, people understand, like, oh, it just be that way.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to get sparring with professionals at your own club, let alone if you have the resources to try to pull every member of your weight class in the area.
Speaking of cross-training, did you see that Anish trained with Jeremy fucking Stevens?
I saw that. Anish.
Like, did you see that? Like, I'll send you the sparring rounds, and, like, Anish was in there just going, like, oh, what the fuck. But, like, that kid is just not sitting still, and Jeremy's trying to fucking swing it. Anish was like, nah, man, not playing that game, dude. And I was like, oh shit, that is Anish sparring with one of my heroes.
Shout outs to Anish. Yeah. Going after it and getting out there.
I want to see footage of Jillian and Andrea Lee. She got to be in her camp.
Yeah. I was like, I remember when Jillian went out there, I was like, hey, can you tell Andrea Lee hi from me? It's just for me. Just tell her I said hello.
There was
I heard that she just broke up with her ex-Nazi boyfriend.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I'm a completely unproblematic person.
And there was like a Facebook memory popped up of WKAs where I'm waiting in line, and it's with it was one of the same years that, like, I got the corner of Travis Petrava, who just got gold at the World Games. Like, and I'm like, what a weird ride.
You've told me this story before,
And like, you can still see Andrea Lee, like, in her cowboy hat, like, she was Karate Mafia back then, and she was like, she was a multiple time, like, WKA, like, tournament champ, and, like, dude, she was cool as shit. She was just, like, one of the dudes, man, like, at a tournament, man, but she definitely stood out. Like, you were kind of just like, oh my god, you look like that in real life? What the fuck? Like, really? Like, are you fucking you're a ninja? What the fuck? Like, not fair, dude. Like,
exactly. When she came to the UFC, I was like, that's a big signing for the UFC.
Yeah.
If she can win fights, she will be huge.
Huge signing, yeah.
I actually.
Oh yeah, let's how your Texas rodeo
Yeah,
weekend. You got to get some like training in at the headquarters, like one of the 10th Planet headquarters, right?
Yeah, 10th Planet Austin. I was originally looking forward to checking out the Arnold Academy too, but I was talking to this guy, like the night after I got there, we were at this party that my friend was hosting, and I saw this guy walking around with a 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu hat on, and I was like, I'm going to talk to this guy. So I started chatting him up. Purple belt. His name is Alec. Super cool guy. Invited me, gave me the training schedule, gave me the lowdown on when to be there. But 10th Planet Austin had gotten so big in the past like 2 years that they had to leave the Onnit Academy because they were just too big. So they bought a space, or they rented a space that's across the street from the Onnit Academy, basically in the same shopping center parking lot kind of deal. But now the guest pass are like separate. I was hoping to check out both, but it was like $35 to drop in at 10th Planet Austin, and it was also like $50 to drop in over at Onnit. So I was like, I'm just gonna check on it out from the outside, scope it out. And it's a pretty crazy looking facility. I would have loved to work out there. I'll probably work out there next time I go, because I might be able to just use my friend's his membership's guest pass, but he was out of town. But the training at 10th Planet Austin Jiu-Jitsu wise is pretty fucking crazy. But Austin also is like the jiu-jitsu capital of the world right now. Gordon Ryan's there.
They've been
Craig
doing a lot
Jones
of the
there.
Who's Number One competitions.
Who's Number One,
and Fight to Win is a regular staple there. And,
I was hoping to meet some people like that that were involved in the production, so I could talk to them about commentary opportunities. But alas, I didn't meet anybody from the MMA or jiu-jitsu production side of things, but met a lot of cool people. Curtis, the head coach out there at 10th Planet Austin, is a fucking animal. Reminded me a lot of like Johnny Buck in terms of how he approaches the grappling, but different. Instead of catch wrestling, jiu-jitsu, more like jiu-jitsu fundamental smashing. But very different style. I mean, you hear it talked about all the time how that 10th Planet system is just completely different than everybody else, and I do agree, but you don't really get a good like feel for it until you're on the mat with like 8 different people who know the system. You know, when I used to train with this guy Anthony Edwards around here,
I love Anthony's a rad dude.
Super great guy, and he's 10th Planet as 10th Planet comes.
Yeah.
So I've had some exposure to this like style, but he's also got the perfect build for that style. When you are up against somebody who's built like me and does that style, you're like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, this is very weird. So I got to experience a completely different kind of training. I went to a couple classes. I actually got almost all my friends that were with me to take a class, a beginner's class, like 8 people.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, so we were staying at my friend Mac's house. He's got this huge place. He invited like 8 people to come stay with him during South by and all this other shit that was going on. And me and Alec were there up late talking. Maybe we had had a few sips. And they were just like sick of hearing us talk about jiu-jitsu. And so they were like, we have to try this. We have to, like, you guys have been talking about it for like an hour and a half. So yeah, we got a lot of them to try a beginner's class, and I think like a couple of them are going to sign up. Like the one girl that tried it and really liked it, she lives in San Francisco.
Oh,
so she lives in one of the best, and LA. Like she's between San Francisco and LA. So it's like, oh, okay, well you live in one of the best areas.
You get to live in the Mecca
on the planet. Like Austin's pretty great. It's probably number 1. But if you can't be in Austin and you're in America, LA is probably the best place.
Be there,
You can go train at 10th Planet headquarters with Eddie, and it'll be a fantastic time. Maybe you'll meet some Instagram influencers or something. But I had a fantastic time. Good vacation. Came home just in time to see UFC London. Yeah. Which, when you look at it, you see it's on at 4 p.m. You're like, there's some bangers on this card, but it's at 4 p.m. Do I really want to set aside my entire
I watched it on
day?
Sunday when I got back from the fights.
I watched it live, and I'm so glad I watched it live.
Yeah, I'm upset. Like, it seemed like it would have been great live, but nothing for me beats sitting, like, just... Because at a tournament, I still just sit like right by the ring and just watch fights all night. I'm just like, haha, awesome.
I had not slept.
Down.
I had not slept in over 24 hours when I started watching UFC London. I did have some slight chemical assistance, but I watched all of it.
You were watching the fights in 4D. Man.
Yeah, I was definitely.
You were on the other side, just like,
Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. All right, so UFC London took place about 2 weeks ago. We'll also talk a little bit about the card last night.
No,
yeah, or night
2
before
nights
last.
ago.
Yeah,
Time is a lie, kids.
But London was
okay?
definitely the
Birds aren't real. Time is a lie.
They're government
There's
drones.
only fighting.
There is only the fight game. UFC London was definitely the superior show, better than a shitload of pay-per-views so far of 2022. Wall-to-wall action, and basically almost every London fighter won, and that London crowd was bringing the heat.
Man, there is no crowd. I got to watch like this great like thing about the original like UFC England event where the Machine beat up fucking the other goddamn who's the heavyweight that leg locked Brock Lesnar? Frank Mir. I'm sorry, Ian the Machine
Mir.
Freeman when he beat Frank Mir.
Yes.
And you see like the energy from that crowd, and I was like, damn. Like, this is going to be a dope fight night. Like, anything that you see, like, even seeing it back then when UFC still wasn't a big thing, and then, like, seeing the evolution of that fight scene, like, it's like watching a bunch of, like, soccer hooligans at a fight night,
It's
man.
true. It's
I
true.
love that. Like, it is a relentless kind of energy. Like, here, you have, like, the Raleigh PNC. Like, it's loud. It's just a loud venue.
Mm-hmm.
The England fights, man, that looks like just something primal. Like,
Yeah.
like they're all like like they treat it like they're about to have like their like bouncers from each team like meet in the middle and fight. Like it's like an organized like underground soccer fight league.
Except there's
like,
only the home team.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no opposition.
Like there's just a wild energy. I'm like, man, if I want to go to an international fight, like I'd love to go to something at O2 Arena. I think that would just be
that'd be so
that's
fun.
like a dream. Like that. Like,
Especially like a massive Cage Warriors card. Like obviously this card would have been great to go to too, but like those Cage Warrior cards get pretty crazy.
Like I would travel to see that. Yeah.
Tom Aspinall making quick work and easy work.
Good lord.
Volkov. Sorry.
Volkov, yeah. But dude, he literally like Volkov. He didn't let Volkov get comfortable.
Buzzsawed, right?
Like just like he just went in and went to work. And what's good is that he was comfortable. He was like, I'm gonna keep it here until you don't want to be here. And once he saw Volkov get frustrated, he was into the body. Boom. And Volkov, as soon as he was starting to fend, then Aspinall was just transitioning off. Didn't he almost have a crucifix in the first? And then he did have a crucifix in the first. How the fuck do you crucifix Volkov that fast? Like
finished with Americana too.
Yeah, and then like effortlessly. I mean, but like and this is someone that's had 2 of the most legit heavyweight titles in MMA under his belt, between like Bellator and M1 and Volkov. Like such a storied history, and Aspinall, just this young kid, just went, "Hey, fuck you, buddy." Like,
I saw Jack Slack's post-show podcast I was listening to on the drive down to Charlotte this weekend, and the title was Tom Aspinall, good, not just heavyweight good,
but
and
good.
It's like, damn, that's so true.
It is like you see his footwork, his boxing on the inside, like he looked like a professional boxer.
Trains with Tyson Fury.
And what I loved is he looked like a pro boxer when he was boxing.
Yeah.
He looked like an elite wrestler when he was wrestling. He looked like a black belt when he was doing jiu-jitsu. And I was like, what a fucking package that man is. Like, good lord.
Could you imagine him versus Gane West?
Dude, that'd be a great fight now.
Fuck, it would be
actually,
awesome.
I'd like to see Aspinall get like
well,
one
do you
more
think
fight.
the blueprint on Gane is out now? That Francis Wrestle fucked him?
Yeah, but even still, like Aspinall looks like someone that is just gonna have an answer for him everywhere. Even like Gane might not have a fun time on the feet.
I think Blade,
someone that can punch that tight. Like people like it is hard to punch that tight.
I think Blade's the nightmare matchup for Gane, but Aspinall's not far behind.
Aspinall and Blades.
That'd be a crazy fight.
Aspinall needs one more fight before Blades, and then Blades, and then Gane. Like I'd like to see,
Blades versus Stipe or Blades versus Gane has to be the next fight. Blades is just like he's constantly gotten so close to the title and not been able to fight that next fight. Getting knocked out by Lewis, then getting knocked out by Francis. Fucking sucks, obviously, but those are 2 of the best knockout artists in the world.
Yeah.
And after he used no wrestling against Dawkins, it's like, all right, we gotta see him versus Stipe now. We gotta see him versus somebody crazy,
I think Stipe only wants like a title fight.
But that can happen now.
Or he wants Jones, right?
Because Ngannou's gonna be out for like a year.
Oh yeah.
With his knee. At least, even if the UFC does make a deal with him.
I wonder if they'll do like Stipe and Gane.
If Jones is not in the picture, then yes. But if Jones is in the picture, it's Stipe versus John. That's the fight.
Yeah, that's the fight because Stipe knows he'll get paid more for that than a title fight.
And Stipe is probably not looking to have too many more fights.
No,
probably not looking to have very many more.
Now with people like Tom Aspinall coming up, because like Tom Aspinall is one of those guys where I'm like, that like for someone like Stipe to take an Aspinall fight, he's like that's like a lose-lose. Like doesn't prove anything, but at the same time, if he loses to Aspinall,
it's done.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's one of those things where you're playing a game at heavyweight, right? Like you're playing this game of how long can I stick around? Like that seems to be the past like 5-6 years of heavyweight. Like
your Teixeira,
your Verdums, your Teixeiras, your guys that are just like, how long can I make this work? But now heavyweight is turning a corner where you're starting to see more guys that are 30 years old, 31 years old, becoming the top guys in the world, and it's like it's not a 40-year-old.
No, yeah, and like case in point, it's
but
like
it has been
like
Hunt, you know,
these natural heavyweight athletes. Well, there's heavyweights, then there's heavyweight athletes,
right?
And this is that you've been seeing through the weight classes, the level of athlete in each weight class goes up and up and up and up and up and up.
Right.
And like John Jones was like the peak athlete of light heavyweight for a long time.
I was gonna say,
but that's because he could have been a peak. No, like his brothers have peak heavyweight genetics. Like, and
well,
and
it's
that's
just that
story.
your guys that traditionally are peak heavyweight genetically, they
go
go
to
to
the NBA, the NFL, and people are starting to see
find
this.
Someone that's a perfect athlete that works in a fucking sand mine in the Congo, and it's like,
and this
oh,
is
they
one of
don't
those
have the
things that
NBA in the Congo.
that you're starting to see, and like the future heavyweight generations are scary, man.
They're gonna look like Francis.
It's like, well, and even look at Cyril Gahn. He was like, okay, I was thinking about being a pro basketball player in Europe, but then Muay Thai looked fun. So he had 14 Muay Thai fights, then went pro in MMA because fuck it. Like, you want to know why? Because homie has LeBron James athletics.
Right.
Like, he does. Like, he's just too big for basketball.
He's got a fucking hog on him, too. Have you ever seen the picture of him in the sweatpants?
Gonna bet he does.
Yeah, there's a picture of him in the sweat.
Thor's hammer there, I can imagine.
Picture of him right before the Francis fight in some gray sweatpants, and it's just like, whoa, dude, like chill.
That's not part the C's or nothing.
Yeah,
but no,
tie
man,
that thing around your waist.
You're starting to see like these guys that are these young guys that get into jiu-jitsu at a young age. Like Aspinall started in jiu-jitsu, but also picked up boxing at a young age. He was like, oh, being big and athletic is a good thing for both of these sports.
Tommy Scalozzi. That's a kid who's been in the shit since he was like 10 years old.
I was working with him when he was fighting in cages at 16.
You see his most recent picture, like his camp
like
picture.
Yeah,
dude,
he's looking like a Justin Poirier body.
He looks like a Spider-Man action figure. Like
yeah.
You know when you used to go buy action figures to Spider-Man from the Tobey Maguire days, how ripped up he'd be, and it's like Tobey Maguire's not this ripped, but Tommy Quasi is that ripped.
Yeah, you see these fucking guys that could be like Tom Aspinall. Could have been a football player.
Or a rugby player.
But instead did martial arts. And you're like, oh, like this is that curve. Like you're starting to see these bigger kids go, hey, that looks more fun to get paid than football. Like,
well, especially guys like, I think Tyson Fury really kind of redefined what a lot of people think of as being
as a heavyweight athlete. Yeah.
Right? And so there's a lot of kids out there that
there's been a lot.
Like 16 years old.
MMA has had the most soft body athletes, and what I mean by it's like I've never had abs,
DC.
but like I've never had abs. But you also see like a lot like Gutierrez was one of those. Is like he looked shredded this past weekend, but Gutierrez is a good example of that, where he's always been like a fluffy body athlete. He has like the loose athletic, like his snappy shoulders, tight base and footwork. He's very like he looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy. But he's springy like a rubber band. And like MMA has the most, like I was a soft body athlete. Like I don't have abs, but I can stick and fucking move like a track star. Like it's, like there's soft body athletes in MMA that like Tyson Fury was that for boxing.
Yeah, definitely.
And
kind of the opposite
like,
spectrum of a guy
like people think like, oh, if I'm not born with abs, I can't be an athlete. And I'm like, bullshit.
Right.
Like, you can
not
outwork
combat sports.
Yeah, not take combat sports, man. It's a different kind of leveling field.
Wrestlers too.
Yeah.
I mean,
like Brian Barberena that fought this past weekend, like total like soft body athlete, man. But that dude's a fucking like
monster.
Yeah.
What's the kid's name? The Gable Stevens, the kid who just retired from NCAA. He's super muscular, but he doesn't have abs.
Yeah.
But he's the baddest wrestler of all time, or one of the baddest wrestlers of all time, especially in his weight class. We actually just rewatched Arnold Allen versus Dan Hooker like 10 minutes ago, and we were talking about Arnold Allen. And I used to think that, you know, I was going to make a video.
His family comes from like
bodybuilders.
Yeah, I didn't know about that until like I heard them talking
his
about
dad
his
is a
fight,
real legit bodybuilder.
And so are his siblings or something like that. Yeah.
But I was gonna make a video about Arnold before this card, before I booked this vacation to Texas. That was called Fight Forensics Arnold Allen, England's best hope for a title. And now after the event, I'm like, well, Tom Aspinall's kind of their best hope for a title because you can get to the title so much easier at heavyweight than you can at lightweight or featherweight. And Arnold Allen's 10 wins in a row and is still nowhere near that conversation for a title, which is insane how competitive featherweight is. If there was a guy with 9 wins at heavyweight, oh wait, there was a guy. It's still gone. They rushed him to the title shot as soon as they could. Yeah, I mean, Arnold Allen just decimates Dan Hooker in 2 minutes. Just destroys him. Makes him look bad. And I don't know. What's next for Hooker? I don't know. I really don't. But if you look at the man's strength of schedule, it's like, wow, he's fought nothing but... This is like the first fight where he's taken a step down in competition.
Yeah.
You know, every other fight he's had in the UFC has been killer after killer after killer.
And it's hard to say that Arnold Allen is a step down in competition because that guy's a monster.
In terms of name.
That's true.
I will say that Arnold is better than some of the guys that Dan's already fought.
Yeah.
But in terms of rank and in terms of name, Dan Hooker was putting, you know, his name on the line coming back to featherweight, really. Yeah. And he bit off way more than he could chew in Arnold Allen. I mean, he's still a young kid, but man, he is really, I mean, they were talking about him being one of the dark horses of this division 3 years ago when he got to the UFC. And now he's still just decimated. I mean, this is the biggest win of his career. And even though Hooker was not ranked at featherweight, I have to imagine the next guy they give him at featherweight's a big name. Has to be a big name. After that performance, how could it not be? But yeah, definitely looks like he comes from a line of bodybuilders. His dad has definitely been sauced to the gills since the 70s. So I wouldn't be surprised if he just, even if he was all natty, if he just got some early in the womb.
Yeah, that man was born some high test.
Exactly. Just from being the spawn of Juice McGillicuddy. But yeah, Arnold Allen, probably another like white knight for a title for England if there ever could be one.
Oh yeah.
This kid's a world class talent for sure. And you were talking about some of the to be able to land those kind of shots on a guy like Dan Hooker, you have to be a pretty fucking good striker.
Yeah, he controlled the space in front of Dan. But like Dan was surprised.
Right.
At how well like Arnold was able to. And his punch tightness was there. Like, everything was just around Dan's arms. Like, you saw, like, he caught Dan, like, almost by surprise and just didn't let him get into gear. And you can just see, like Dan was so uncomfortable. Like, Dan loves to get behind his jab. He loves to get in gear and kind of set a pace. And Arnold's went, no, man. Because he kept that inch in behind. And it wasn't even like he wasn't taking big steps in. Like, Dan will overstep in.
Right.
Arnold, in like inches his way in almost, like behind his strikes.
So just relentlessly.
So he builds up to a couple inches really quick and with a lot in that space. And Dan just went, oh, this isn't a good time. And you even saw like if there was space, all of a sudden like Allen is great about putting kicks into space. If someone is backing up or off, that left leg is always there to pop. And he caught Hooker right behind the guard. Like, that foot caught him behind the ear, and Hooker was like, fuck, I can't step anywhere with this guy.
Yeah.
And that creates a, like, dude, when your butthole puckers like that and you're caught backstepping, man, you're going to walk into some fire shots. And that was like, you see, like, he only had one option that was straight back into the cage, and then it was what? Elbows, and that was it, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's impressive to be 8 cars wide in front of someone like Dan Hooker.
At 145 pounds.
At 145 pounds. And like, punch through him. Like, fuck, man. That was impressive. Like, that's just...
Super impressive win.
That sucks to be on that end of a beating, man.
Especially if you're Dan Hooker, who is just like, how much more can I take? How much, it's how much more can my career take? You know, it's like, people are kind of like calling for him to retire and all this other stuff, and I just don't know if that's like what you want right now, but... you definitely need to like take a step back and maybe
the,
consider not fighting.
He's the Kiwi
the best
cowboy
in the
right now, man. He needs to like pick some better fights right now.
Not in a good way. You remember when that used to be a compliment? You know you're old when that used to be a compliment.
Yeah.
Paddy Pimblett took on Kazula Vargas, and I feel like I wanted to rewatch this when I got here. The reason why I brought up us watching it is because I watched it and I was like live in the moment. I was like, oh sweet, Paddy went right through him. But then online, I saw a bunch of people being like, Paddy struggled again. Paddy, couldn't really put him away.
It was a tough opening.
And then I was like, no, it's not really a tough opening. Yes, he got hit, but he pulled guard. It's not like he got rocked.
Yeah.
It's like
I think when a lot of people watched it live, it seemed like
watch my fight forensics video on Paddy Pimblett to understand why he always goes to the bottom.
Like and it looks like, and like a lot of people see that in action, it looks like he's been rocking pull guard. So I think there was a lot of people's like live reaction where like I heard that and I didn't watch it live.
Yeah.
I went back and I watched him like he got hit and he pulled guard because that dude punched himself like over top of Paddy. Like it's an old school thing that Paddy did of like where someone gets comfortable punching hard in front.
Yeah.
You can drop in underneath. Like, and literally, like, how do you say his name?
Kazula Vargas.
Kazula Vargas.
Kaz
Vargas. But you saw, like, he was literally still, like, punching in air and going, fuck, like, he's on the ground.
Right.
And has to follow on top.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like...
He, like, punched himself in place over Paddy.
I covered this in my fight forensics video, but anytime Paddy feels like he can get to the bottom and bring it to the fight easier than taking you down, that's what he's going to do because he doesn't have phenomenal takedown skills.
No.
So,
yeah.
but he needs the fight to be on the ground to use his best tools. So he puts himself on bottom and then starts attacking to create openings.
Like he wants people. He's that kind of like old school wants people to shoot on him kind of guy.
And there's that element of once they know and the cat's out of the bag, it's like they're never going to shoot on you. So how do you counter that? Well, you have to almost kind of like bait them in, like you were saying, punch themselves over the top and then pull them in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I felt like he was doing the entire fight. Like I really felt like he sucked them in. As soon as he got on bottom, he started attacking butterfly hooks and causing disruption and just waited for the right moment to get on top. And there was even a moment where he looked like he was going to try to set up a flying triangle, but as long as Paddy, even if he's on bottom, as long as he has an overhook on his strong side, he's probably going to find some way to attack you and just make you create enough space where he can just stand up anytime he wants. Because like in fights where he's fought stronger wrestlers and people that can hang with him in the grappling, he just stands up in those situations. But he didn't stand up once, even though he had plenty of space. So I was like, all right, he wants this fight to be here. And yeah, it took him 4 minutes, but he fucking choked this guy out. And it's like the fight before this, the Gunnar Nelson fight, we saw how fights can play out when someone can get to the back really easily, but is too nice to beat the shit out of you.
I personally, like, when I saw that as a Gunnar Nelson decision, I went, oh, he rode his back out for 3 rounds.
Well, Gunnar's a nice guy.
Like, hard to do for that long.
Especially coming off of a 2.5-year layoff.
Yeah, that's how Gunnar has to fight. It is... Like, jiu-jitsu in the street as a bouncer, like, holding onto a dude's back for, like, 5-15 minutes, like, against a trained fighter.
I was really excited to see Gunnar come back, but it's just, like, Chael Sonnen talked about how the back position in MMA is often, like, you don't choke somebody out unless they give up.
Yeah.
And it's, like, that's what I saw in that Gunnar Nelson fight. I saw somebody who refused to give up, and also Gunnar was too nice to just fucking ground and pound him.
Yep.
And it's, like... Paddy is so slick with it that he doesn't need to ground and pound you. He's just going to snake in, windshield wiper that arm, and gets super deep on
Paddy's good about just it being a chaotic fight, I think, is one thing I've seen.
An agent of chaos.
Yeah, and I got to rewatch this fight with one of Talia's friends, Nicole, who's she's a therapist. And I was like...
Nicole Briggs?
Yeah, no, not Nicole Briggs. This is a different Nicole.
Okay, I was about to say that'd be an interesting person to watch that fight.
No, Nicole is like she does like a lot of like therapy, and she's worked at like kids like homes and like she works with some fucking people. Anyways,
she's seen some personality types.
Exactly, right. And I was like, hey, check out this dude's eyes, and she was like, what the fuck? And I was like, Right, and you said like agent of chaos. Like a therapist, when you see Patty's eyes pre-fight, like in the cage.
Yeah, Patty's a fucking madman.
Yeah, and because then I showed her his like interviews outside of the cage and how he interacts, and she's like, yeah, that dude's got his shit under some heavy lock and key. Like, and he is able to just create absolute chaos and then just be like, cool, and like grab on and I'm just like, what a motherfucker.
He makes
like,
the fight an environment he's comfortable with.
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah,
I agree.
Absolute insanity, and gotta admire him for that.
Speaking of insanity, Molly McCann.
Great, like tough fight, like
knockout.
Like she and Carvalho had a great scrap back and forth. You know, Molly kind of led the dance.
See, I thought she was winning the entire time handedly.
She was. Molly led the dance. Carvalho, like she tried to hang in there. Like she felt good coming in that third round.
Yeah, I agree.
And then all
she was starting to turn it on.
Molly was slowly inching into that space. Like she was just slowly getting more and more control in that space as the fight went on, and then just said, fuck it, boom. Like you see she had a couple like spin like attempt setups earlier in the fight, but she needed Carvalho to be a bit more planted for that spinning elbow to really
by that third round
smash, because like that first round and second round, Carvalho was still exiting from the pocket. Where third round, she was like, fuck it, I'm going to stand my ground.
And also, you're a little bit more sluggish.
Exactly. She's had a bit more things
your
being up to her.
Your feet are a little bit more heavy in that third round.
And then Molly just went like, all right, you got to get the fuck out of here.
One of the best women's knockouts I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of the best women's knockouts.
Yeah, I think it really is. I mean, aside from, I think, like, you have the whole Rousey head kick knockout is kind of like just one of the most iconic ones, I think, because of like the stakes that were on it. Like it ended that run, and then you have this.
Yeah,
I feel it's like the most like what the
just
fuck
the technique,
like crazy
one
moment.
of 3 spinning back elbow KOs in the UFC of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, whoa, that is a 125-pound woman that just did that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, and we don't mean that like harshly, but it's just like you don't see knockouts like that at 25, like.
In order to generate that kind of power to flatline a woman with her eyes still open at 125 pounds, your technique has to be perfect.
Yeah, and what I like is that Molly didn't reach for it. Like she threw that tight. She threw that on her own axis.
And she was ready to. She was right back in her stance, ready to throw again, but the girl was already dead.
Yeah, that was something special.
Speaking of eyes open Undertaker ass knockouts. Yeah. Ilia Topuria, one of the scariest KOs I've ever seen.
What a way to come back from a first round.
He was getting his ass beat.
Like, Jai Herbert came out with that England energy crowd. I think he was like the only England fighter to really have a rough night.
He was getting his ass beat.
But Jai Herbert had a great first round.
He looked amazing. He looked better than ever.
And Topuria was still finding like the body head towards the end of the round.
Yeah.
And then when he found it in that second round, Jesus Christ, like it was just
yeah.
Like,
Topuria's a monster.
That was one of my favorite knockouts I've seen.
Topuria is another person that I've collected a lot of footage of to make a video about one day. And one thing I just noticed about him is it's just like he's like Kamaru, where when he first started, he had such a strong threatening presence in the grappling that's what people came to expect of him, so he was able to land hands more. And as he's landed more and more, it's like his confidence has grown, his technique has gotten better, and now he is just fucking putting that Thanos gauntlet on people. Like he is breaking motherfuckers when he hits into the body, and like you said, it went to the body, came back up to the head, and it was just like wide open because Jai was so affected by the body shot.
Ryan Confaro had a great Instagram story where he was just like, and it was one of those where he said, checking out Ilia Topuria's fight for his body head setups. And it was him, like, you know, pretending to like be study, and then it says, and 1 minute later, point proof, and it's like in his face of like shock because, like, you want to say it comes out of nowhere, but it's like, fuck, he does it every fight.
Yeah, he
does it every fight, and like Ryan, and then like it made me go back and watch more of Topuria's fight. I'm like, you're right, every fight he has the best body head setups.
It came out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere in the sense that, goddamn, he's fucking fast.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
he found it and then he ripped it. Like he found it at the end of the first, and he went, okay, I have to get him out of here with this, and then he just went, here we go, and that was it. Like, he finds it and then he'll commit to it.
Right, and it was like before that.
Some guys will find it and overcommit to something. He has the right amount of find it and then, I'm going to be faster. Wham, and that's all you need. It's not trying to hit a heavy bag, kids.
Exactly.
It's trying to catch two flies, like with the same. It's like trying to catch a fly with two punches. Boom, boom. Can you punch it into place with the next punch? Like, and that's what he did. Just bow, bow. He just put speed behind it. He knew how not to overcommit, and that's what makes power. So many people think that this is power, and I'm like, no. Throwing your body out a punch and being able to rip back, like, you're generating more into that second punch.
Fucking flatline.
Fucking flatlined. Like, like, I love just his, goddamn, like, you see just from his base that he threw that. Like, as someone that's been watching punches for a long goddamn time, you're just like, fuck, he made so much power into that. And like, that's that kind of load that you see out of professional boxing. Like,
yeah.
Like, I tell people, like, you're starting to see, like, these high-level boxing footwork and body mechanics setups for punches.
Another guy who's been training since he was, like, 10 years old, 11 years old, Ilya.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
That dude probably could have been a soccer player.
Yeah.
Like, professional soccer player, man.
He could have been anything he wanted, and the dude is
he decided to be a bad motherfucker.
He's athletic, he's strong, he's fucking handsome, he's well-spoken. Apparently he's got a little bit of money, comes from a little bit of money, so, I mean...
has no issues throwing hand sanitizer at people. Like,
no, he got hand sanitizer thrown at him.
Oh, he got it thrown at him.
Yeah, Patty hit him with the hand sanitizer.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I don't really give a shit about that fight. I don't really want to see it. I don't really care.
That's funny. I forgot they're in the same weight class.
They're not.
Oh, they're not?
Patty's at 55. And
I thought Patty was a 45er.
Or that's what it is. Ilya's at 55. Patty's at 45.
Oh, I thought they were both 45ers.
Yeah, so Ilya, is bigger than Patty, and Patty would have to go to 55 to fight him, and it's just like, no, I'm good on it. Like, I don't really, I understand Ilya's beef, but it's like, also, I don't really think either of them gain much from fighting each other. It reminds me of, like, 4 years ago or maybe it was 5 years ago now, but 4 or 5 years ago, Paul Craig had to fight Khalil Roundtree when they were both just coming off of the light heavyweight season of Ultimate Fighter. It was like after the show was over, and they like immediately booked them, and I was like, that seems kind of counterproductive. I mean, both these guys are they have a prospect light around them, and it's like, I understand doing the prospect versus prospect thing, but that's like to determine who gets into the top 15. This was like way outside of that.
Yeah.
Paul Craig also had a great win. He did it again.
Oh yeah, he did.
The son of a bitch finds a way to do it every time. Triangle choke after getting hit. I mean,
he looked like he was out after some of those shots.
His ability to get punched on the ground is second to none in the UFC. I saw a YouTube comment that was like, you could probably try to punch the mat and square land on fucking Paul Craig's jaw when he's on the bottom.
Like, he would try to miss and he'll put his face in front of a fucking punch.
Right.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're in a triangle choke.
Yeah.
You're in a triangle armbar getting your fucking arm ripped off by a giant Scottish man. And it's just like, he does it. I mean, he's one of the most entertaining guys in the UFC, in my opinion. Because it's just like, how can he continue? It's like Alexei, when Alexei would have that little run where he was no arm Ezekiel.
And then Paul had like a 3-round like scrap with like Shogun Hua. Like, they were on the feet. It was kind of ugly, but I was like, God damn it!
He hung with Shogun for 3 rounds.
Like, I mean, I still had fun watching that fight. I was like, whoa, like, this ain't the prettiest fight, but god damn, can Paul Craig still just fight his ass off?
Did you see any of the ONE FC fights?
I watched the Rodtang Mighty Mouse fight.
It's cool, wasn't it?
Fuck, man. Like,
did you like it with the mixed rules?
I was always thinking, I was like, I wonder if they're ever going to do that. Like, that would be neat. I liked it a lot.
The first round was so tense because I was like,
oh! Like, Mighty Mouse, like DJ was just like not having a good time, straight up not having a good time. Yes. And Rodtang's like, I'm trying to have a good time. Like, I do not want to be in that second round.
I thought it was so...
And then you see like the huge shift going into that second round of like Rodtang going, fuck, 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 fuck,
right.
fuck, 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 fuck,
it was
fuck,
so
fuck, fuck, fuck.
different than the average fight because it was so obvious that Rodtang was fighting in a way where he was like, I have to finish him in 1 round. And then when the second round comes around, DJ's like, I have to finish him in 1 round.
Man, I don't think like DJ's ever been hit like that.
No, of course not.
It's wild. Like, and it's so funny because like when you can compare sound bites of like fighters getting hit, you put up the sound bites of Rodtang landing on DJ compared to everyone else that's hit DJ.
That's different.
And you're just
the
like,
production at ONE FC is way different than the UFC.
Is it? You think so? I was gonna say it's just like
at the ONE FC, your boy, what's his name?
Justin Brown?
He could tell you, the refs sometimes they have cameras and mics on them.
Oh, right.
And the ref mic is the one. Instead of a cage mic,
Okay.
the cage mics are on the outskirts of the cage. You're talking about a mic that's in the middle of the cage.
Oh, interesting.
So ONE FC's got some interesting production tricks.
There's still like you hear a different type of punch behind Rodtang. Like
I'm not gonna say he doesn't hit hard.
throws his bones. Like there's something about how a Muay Thai fighter will throw his bones into a punch, like his elbows, knees, kicks.
That's how Gaethje throws leg kicks.
Yes,
is he throws his fucking skeletal system.
Yeah, and like those elbows that DJ ate. Like there's elbows that he got hit with in the UFC that you can think like he was like, okay, those are gonna. What Rodtang hit him with, I was like, how the fuck is DJ still up?
The first time DJ and Henry fought and DJ fucking cracked him with that elbow in the clinch?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this is the exact inverse of that moment in DJ's career. Like, he's getting cracked with the same fucking elbow that he...
And it was a great showing of, like, MMA striking versus Muay Thai.
Yes.
Yeah, like, MMA striking still had a rough time. Dude. Like, but it's also... Rodtang's a guy, like...
Could you imagine...
He's had over 300 Muay Thai fights.
Okay,
like,
could you imagine... a mixed rules fight on a local level between a guy like George Copa and then like a pure wrestler or somebody like that who had like
did George Copa fight what's his face yet? The fucking grappler kid?
From I think that's on UBG.
Oh, is that UBG? Okay,
I think it might be on UBG.
That's on the 16th. Okay, that's right.
If I'm not mistaken.
But George Copa versus who?
Anybody who like didn't have a lot of MMA training. But like the second round was an MMA round, you know.
Yeah, that'd be
a pure wrestler, you know. That'd be so cool. Or like Deuce Carter versus Brent Williams in the first round is Muay Thai and the second round's MMA.
I'd like to see like Cheyenne and George fight again.
That would be cool.
In like a mixed rules fight.
That would be cool.
Like 1 round kickboxing.
But that's what immediately where my mind goes when I see a new format is I'm like, can this be applied to the local level and how fun would it be? And I think that it could be a cool gimmick. It definitely was fun as shit.
They allowed arena fighting and tag team fighting in Virginia.
What?
Wait, did you not know about that?
No.
Do you not know the rich history
of
Virginia?
I know anything goes in Virginia.
Okay, so in Virginia, there's a couple crazy things that have happened. 2 of them being the arena tag team fighting, where it's 2 teams of 2 fighters fighting each other in an arena with like shit in between them that you can like parkour through and like jump off of. Okay. I'll pull up videos. I can't believe it. Okay, god damn it, you're gonna have your mind blown.
I would murk people.
I'm gonna show you like some of my homies that did it, and we're like, it's insane. Okay.
I would love to beat up some Virginians.
And then my buddy Jeremy Perdue fought 3 guys. No, he fought 2 guys at once. It was a 3-man at once fight in a pit. Yeah, like
him versus 3 guys.
Him versus 2 guys.
Like in a movie.
I swear to fuck, man. And, like, I'll pull it up on YouTube.
I know that this guy's a hard ass. I've seen him fight. I've seen Jeremy fight.
They did a pit. It was like that Yama pit fighting kind of pit. And it was him versus 2 guys. And he knocked out both guys with head kicks.
This is a funny story. One of the first times, well, it's not one of the first times I ever saw a fight between adults, but I remember I was in high school and we were coming back from a night of debauchery in Charlotte. And I was dropping my friend off, and he lived in this apartment on the 3rd floor of this building. So I'm making sure that he's getting in because he's super drunk. And I'm just sitting there waiting on his girl to open the apartment door so I can let him in. And I hear rabble-rousing, like yelling and cursing. And I'm like, what's going on? So I like lean over the rail and look over down into the courtyard of this apartment. And I see these 3 guys having a disagreement, and I'm like worried that one of these guys is about to get jumped. So I'm like, yo, let's go down there. It's like 3 of us. We can maybe, stop this from getting too bad. And my friend Corey's super against the idea of going down there. He's like, what if they're armed? And I'm like, yo, they're just a bunch of guys out there like us. They're probably drunk. They're probably just having a disagreement. We'll just see what's going on. We're walking that way. We're going to have to walk right past them and get to the car anyway.
Someone has to yell World Star and record it.
Exactly. Or that. Or we have to see what's going on, right? So by the time we get to the bottom of the stairs, it's no longer an argument. It's erupted into a full-blown fight. And I think the guy's getting jumped. But then I realize that what I'm seeing is much deeper. This is a fight in which all 3 people in this situation are fighting each other. It's free for all. And I begin to approach, and I see that that's happening, and I'm like, whoa! I have to just watch how this plays out now, because I've never seen this kind of situation before, and it was like something from a movie. Like three guys all had the intention to hurt each other.
We're fighting each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
like
what
one of
this
them
was
grabbed
Purdue.
them grabbed the other, and the guy just started hitting both of them. Like both the grabby and the grabber were getting hit, and so they have to stop grabbing him and address this other guy.
One of the worst fights I've
It was a mess. It was a fucking mess, and one of them got their shirt ripped open.
Sounds like a Waffle House parking lot fight.
But all I could do was stare in awe. It was like a human car crash.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, I'll never see this again. I'll never see.
Before it was popular in
for-all.
Russia, it was kind of just something to do around Virginia. Sorry, Russia.
Oh man.
But yeah, no, like there's some wild shit that has gone down in the Virginia fight scene. Like, yeah.
So you didn't see Angela Lee versus Stamp Fairtex
Oh shit.
title fight?
Oh, on the one card?
Yeah.
No, like
that
the
one
only
card's got some bangers.
Dude, they always do. They just always come out at the weirdest fucking times, and I just always kind of catch the replays as they come up.
Definitely
But-
watch that fight, especially Talia would love it.
Yeah, Angela Lee and Stamp.
Stamp
Yeah.
Fairtex, yeah. Yeah, Stamp was putting it on her too.
Really?
Fucking liver kicked her, and I thought Angela was done.
Really?
And then the grappling got introduced.
Damn.
Angela Lee's a bad bitch on the ground.
Oh wait, did they do a mixed rules fight too?
No.
Oh, it was an MMA
Stamp
fight.
just
Stamp
just challenged for the belt. You know, she's
Oh, sick. Yeah, dude,
she's
Stamp's
on like
cool.
4-fight win streak and
Yeah.
one. So yeah, she's mean.
Yeah.
She's a mean girl.
Yeah, she is. I really like how ONE FC has changed the game for Muay Thai and MMA. It's cool to see like entire Muay Thai bases or like MMA bases around Muay
It's
Thai.
because they don't have a shitload of fucking wrestlers.
Exactly.
And they're
yeah.
like, you know what? Just come on over. You know, we'll
Yep.
make sure you got a good platform. We're gonna put you up against mostly strikers.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
a
definitely like more of like a
jiu-jitsu
strikers like MMA.
playground
Yeah.
over there. Yeah, definitely. And
I like it.
Chatri, the guy who runs ONE, is just addicted to being like a showcase
Pioneer.
style matchmaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, pioneer matchmaker. And I think that's what the Rodtang fight was about. I think I would go back and watch this whole card because, I mean, I didn't see every fight on it yet, but every fight that I have seen on it was really good. And yeah, ONE kind of continues to impress me. I think a lot of what they do is kind of like smoke and mirrors, but the actual fights are good.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't believe they have over 1 billion viewers or any of the other shit that they claim to have, but I do believe they're putting on some decent fights.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think they're doing just fine. Like, you know, without Yakuza money. Like,
Right.
You know, it looks like Chatri has really built like a business out of it.
I would
Like,
love
and
to have a...
He knows how to like
Yakuza
spread it
free-
out over like the Asian market,
Right.
like well enough. You know, where America's like consumer number one, so we can like have the UFC and like pull into it. We're like, they know how to cover that Asian and like the European market well. Like,
I would...
they don't give a fuck about getting Americans on there. Like,
Not really.
Like, not really.
No.
And like, so that's why they're doing so
Not
well.
unless
with,
it's
like,
somebody like DJ.
yeah.
Then it becomes different, right?
And because it's such a different economy and culture over there, like they really focus on the martial arts and the rags and the riches of it. Where around here we're like violence, bloodshed, just like it's getting
Right.
better. You know, we're under like Americans are understanding.
It's funny
martial
because I
arts more.
remember an interview on the MMA Hour with Chatri many years ago where he was talking about the mission of ONE FC, and he was like, you know, there is an Eastern point of view and an Eastern philosophy around martial arts that's very different than
Yes.
how Western people view
Yes,
it.
yes.
And he's like, that's kind of what
ONE FC is.
ONE FC is kind of building towards.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're not really interested in having a press conference where people talk shit for 2 hours, you know. We're
The only
interested in-
person that's made martial arts look like a good thing in the U.S. has kind of been Joe Rogan, sadly. Where it's like, I mean, there's better examples, but like he introduces that like a lot of people will change their lives through martial arts. Like the UFC really
I
helps show
would
that a lot.
say Chuck Norris.
Chuck
is
Norris,
the
yeah.
#1 ambassador for martial arts in the United States.
But he's I mean, no, like ambassador
for
yes,
our
but
generation, it's more Rogan.
it's
but,
more Rogan. But like
but in
ambassador
terms
of bringing in, like he brought the Machados up, who brought in like the Gracie family. Like he introduced Gracie Jiu-Jitsu to the U.S. Like he changed. He's like the guy that kind of helped light the fuse to change martial arts forever.
You're talking about
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris, yes.
Yes, he is. But like for getting like for having like a public figure and like how big the UFC is now, like and like I'm a young kid who grew up where like people thought martial arts and fighting was dumb. Now it's at least like it's literally something for dumb people, like because in America we see college education as peak. We see college education as peak intelligence. We see like the guys like Arnold as peak physical, where you have these martial artists that are like that have like these that philosophy of like life of like, hey, hard work gets you places still, like and you also have like that like, hey, more average people can like pull ahead. Like it's a different viewpoint that we just have instilled about martial arts and action and stuff like that. Even Chuck Norris is like, hey, let's use guns. Like
Invasion USA, baby.
Love it, man. Pet armadillos, way to go.
Honestly, it's like.
But Chatri, like the like MMA is at least now a semi like people know like. Okay, there's like Americans are accepting it that there's educated people that fight.
Do you think that MMA in a way has ruined kind of the mystique and the mystery of the Eastern martial art? Because
the Eastern martial art?
There's no martial arts movies now. Not American ones anymore.
Right.
We don't make them anymore because we kind of know that martial arts isn't real. Or at least,
So
at least not the movies we grew up watching.
America has never made a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon because we believe in fight.
But
America has fights.
But there used to be major American martial arts.
Oh, you mean like the Steven Seagal and like Chuck? Like, well, a lot more people understand like the gun. We have a generations brought up around glamorized war, so that's why you see.
Wick.
Like America also does not have a history of martial arts. We have a history of fighting.
Yeah.
We have a history of glorifying combat through war, not martial arts.
But our martial arts movies now are superhero movies.
Yes.
That's where we get all
or like the John Wicks.
Well, John Wick is interesting because John Wick it's certainly a martial arts film. I would say because John Wick knows martial arts. And he uses martial arts. You can say
they use martial arts as like a fight as a means to an end. Where other like in
but it's
China,
not about the martial arts.
In China it's about the martial arts and it's a means of like self-discovery through struggle and triumph. Like it is storytelling.
And there used to be
in the U.S. like I mean I think like March for Death tried to do that with Steven Seagal, but he's a fucking asshole.
Right?
Like,
of course.
But yeah, like how. They made movies in China and Japan, like the old Jet Li movies, like the Once Upon a Time in China movies, like phenomenal. And it's about
samurai films.
It's about like struggle, overcoming perseverance, and that's how you overcome evil. In the U.S., we're kind of like we're gonna get a bigger gun, or it's like I lost that fist fight.
I would consider Rocky a martial arts film.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. But we also no one's ever looked at boxing as a martial art. No one looks at it like Vision Quest, great martial arts flick.
That is a great martial arts movie.
However, this is America, so in America, people will say, no, that's not a martial arts film. That's a boxing movie. No, that's not a martial arts film. That's a wrestling movie. Trust me. You ever gone to a wrestling? You ever been a part of a wrestling team and try to be looking at wrestling as a martial art? No, you view it as competition. There's no how we view boxing and wrestling in the U.S. because we see gold medal number one is the only way to it. We don't see we learn it. The people that watch it don't see martial art. The people that do it sound like martial artists.
Right.
Us as Americans as people that just want to consume everything and we just want to see a knockout and you're like, yeah, our people are number one. Fuck it. We see fight. We see competition. We see tough guy. The people when you hear Rocky Marciano talk, he sounds more intelligent than Bruce Lee sometimes.
Of course, yeah.
And that's because he is a martial artist. But in the U.S., we don't see a martial artist. We see fighter. It's just it's been viewed as this weird stigma.
To me, they're just not separate things.
But
I
got into martial arts before the double digits, so I've seen both ends of the spectrums of how people see it then and how people how stuff is now. It's so different from back then, and now it's Rocky was a martial arts film technically with how he uses boxing to, or Jet Li would use kung fu to overcome adversity, get ahead, become a better person, beat the bad guy. Dialogue for dialogue, including fucking your buddy's sister. It's the same dialogue from a Once Upon a Time in China movie.
In an Eastern film, there's also
we look at it the glory of the prize and the winnings that come after it.
Yes.
So we see that where in China they're very much okay with riding off into the sunset happy and still having nothing.
That's why I would say
and there's different means to the ends about like what we see as happiness and what they view as happiness. Like there's the internal happiness, but we see that money, winnings, earnings. And Rocky showed a great thing where he's like, oh, like that's what I love about the first Rocky that he lost.
I was about to
because
say
he knows he got better at the end of the day.
So
and then you see his downfall comes from like riches and stuff like that.
I was about to say that the first Rocky movie is very Eastern in the sense that like he does lose and he discovers usually with the Eastern martial arts journey
that, like
there's
he's
usually
not a nobody, he becomes a winner.
There's usually an internal conflict as well as this external conflict where you have to fight a villain.
Yeah.
Usually you cannot defeat the villain because of some internal struggle that you have within yourself, and that is what I feel like the first Rocky movie is like.
Yeah.
And you know, Rocky 2, obviously, like you were saying, he has kind of everything, and that's part of the struggle in that movie, is that he's trying to decide between a more simple life with Adrian and like this life of a fighter. And I think that as those movies go on, they become more Americanized. But I definitely think the first one is inspired by those ancient, you know, like Journey to the West type of martial arts journeys.
Yeah.
And I think that like the reason I brought this up is because Mickey Gall recently said that he would fuck Bruce Lee up, and I was like, yeah,
he absolutely would.
I'm pretty sure you would.
Like, here's the thing, man, Bruce, like, and I'll still say it, like, y'all shouldn't be mad about the scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's kind of what Gene LaBelle did to Bruce Lee. If you guys looked up American, like, but here's the thing, that's also in America. You have Gene LaBelle where he's like, I'm doing martial arts to fuck your shit up. Bruce Lee's doing martial arts. Yeah, he wants to prove like what is real, what does work, but he's also like a thinker's thinker. He has a philosopher's brain and like an athlete's body. And Gene LaBelle is a motherfucker in a motherfucker's body.
And a motherfucker, yeah. You know, genetically a motherfucker.
And genetically like a motherfucker where he just goes and like Gene LaBelle, like the whole thing started with like Gene LaBelle's like, okay, you're in theory, yes, you're supposed to beat me, but I'm going to grab a hold of you and fuck your shit up. Because on paper, it's a different game. And Gene LaBelle proved, she's like, he punched and kicked me a few times and it hurt, but I grabbed him, I hit him harder, and then I took him down, and I hit him some more. And that's how the story goes, kids. Like, it's, like, even me, like, it's with my students, Bruce Lee, Gene LaBelle, like, my thoughts work, you guys apply it. Like,
Chuck Norris was like 30 years old in the prime of his life and got fucking destroyed by old man Helio. And first time he ever, you know, sparred with the Gracies.
And the thing with like Chuck Norris though is that he had like that rare and there was like that dying breed is like now like the legit fighters. Like we have like The Rock, we have wrestlers, we have other actors becoming actors and stuff like that. We've gotten out of like the legit, like Chuck Norris was a legit badass.
Well, I was gonna say
he was a legit motherfucker.
We used to have guys like that. We used to have a lot of guys like, obviously Stallone is not an actual hard ass, but he did do a lot of legitimate boxing training, and he obviously is in shape as fuck.
Yeah.
But the other guys, the Van Dams of the world, the
also
Norrises,
not a fighter. Chuck Norris a fighter. Like Van Damme is a lifelong martial artist. He's done it, but he also wanted to be like an actor because he loved like the spectacle of it and stuff like that. You have Dolph Lundgren, who is a legit motherfucker.
Dutch kickboxer, right?
Dutch Kyokushin karate.
Kyokushin karate.
Like I mean, to the most legit. Like he's done the 100-man kumite. Like dude, like. And he'll box in free time and he's like, in Holland, it's just what you do.
Right,
like, it's like the painters will paint and then go to Dutch kickboxing.
That's also one of the reasons why The Rock is in every movie, is because we used to have 9 guys for these roles.
Yeah.
And now we have 1.
The Rock,
we have The Rock. You know,
well,
we used to have Arnold, we used to have Stallone, we used to have Van Damme, we used to have Lundgren, we used to have all these guys that
Americans are good at like making stuff into a worse product but putting a good package on top of it. Like it's like a lot of like stuff is just dumb to watch. Like I enjoy watching movies from like the 90s. Like I do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know that I'm a huge Jackie Chan fan. I would rather watch like
Rumble in the Bronx. Thank you.
Anything.
Dude, I tried to get Talia to watch that and she's like, you fucking love this movie so much. And I'm like, babe, shut the fuck up. I'm watching it.
The movie that Talia will like from Jackie is definitely Wheels on Meals.
She won't watch anything that's been dubbed. Like, she doesn't have, dude,
Oh, but you just watched the sub.
Like no, like she won't read subtitles.
Oh.
And she like if she knows like the voices don't match up over well, like
oh no,
she won't like no.
Well, Will Smith does one of the better
I don't know.
jobs. I guess like the bigger movies are better.
And because that's more like Benny the Jet. Dude,
and
oh my God,
Yoon Bao is the co-star,
Yeah.
and also Sammo Hung is in the movie as well as in a major role. And it's like those three together, Jackie Chan, Yoon Bao, Sammo Hung, when they're in a movie together, it's like choreography and martial arts magic.
Well, they all came through the same kung fu academy together, where they did like the theatrics together and stuff like that. It's how you see like groups of actors, like where you have like your like Seth Rogen who hangs out with Franco and then the skinny guy, right? Like the martial arts all did that together, so they have like this like they can almost do stuff on the fly.
Yeah,
that like they can improvise.
They know what each other are capable of.
They can physically improvise to each other, and they can like also talk shit to each other. It's kind of like if you and I were on boxing gloves and just talk shit before I had a stroke again or something like that while we hit each other. But like you and some of your buddies can like have conversations while you spar, and like those guys can like have active dialogue while physically improvising and like physically do stuff around a conversation. Like it's awesome.
Do you think before we get off the subject, do you think that the only way to make a modern martial arts film is to do it through the scope of MMA, like a movie like Warrior or Bruised?
Yeah, I think Warrior has like a lot of great like undertones for that. The movie Warrior that came out. Like yeah, we glamorized it with like the brother versus brother thing, but there's a lot of like triumph and like becoming better people on the end of it, I think.
Have you ever seen Into the Badlands?
I started to watch it.
I think that's a good way to make a modern martial arts film. You just make it like in an age after guns.
No,
like,
I
guns
think
are
like there
weird.
could be something done for like kids where like I wish Netflix would do a show about like the Rumbler.
Isn't that what Cobra Kai is?
Cobra Kai is
a
great
martial
for
arts
this generation.
show,
I think.
Yeah.
Like yeah, like remember
dude,
like there's like
dude,
that.
Can you imagine being a karate gym owner 5 years ago and being like, oh fuck.
What am I gonna do? And then like Cobra
Kai comes out, and you're just like
fuck shit. Yeah. Like thank God. Yeah.
Karate gyms all across America, fucking rejoice. Yeah.
But I feel like remember like with that little like joking thing about like the Rumbler app, like I think like if they could make a funny like
hands,
like an only hand, like I think there could be a funny thing about that where people use like good old fashioned ass beatings as a way to like become better, like Fight Club. Okay, I'll say this. Fight Club is kind of like a movie about self-discovery and split personality disorder, but still, like
you're using like
that, but like you talk
on
about
the fringes of a martial arts film
like, but like
it's about finding the truth through combat.
Well, and it's funny of like how
there's
some very key things that Edward Norton talks about. It's like where you have to stay groomed, you have to stay disciplined, you have to still like you're getting beat up, you have to like recognize like how you carry yourself differently, and I was like, yeah, there's a lot of shit where it's like, I tell people, I just need to get my ass beat.
Yes.
To get realigned. And as Americans, like, we do.
And that happens in the movie several times as well.
Several times. And I think that kind of almost fringes on that a little bit.
Yeah, and I've definitely been there after an intense sparring session where you're like on that drive home and the windows are down and you're just like, man, a lot of this shit just doesn't matter. Like, a lot of shit is just not important. Like, you know, like all the shit that I'm stressing out about, not just really that big of a deal. And that's kind of like
that's
part of the message of Fight Club.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about, like, hey, how was kickboxing? Got my ass beat. Again?
It was great.
Yeah, but it was great. Yeah. What? I don't know. What'd you think of? Not getting my ass beat. Yeah. And then, like, that's it. Like,
sometimes that's all you got.
Yeah.
But Blades versus Dawkins.
Man, like, I was telling Talia, like, oh my God, that's some horrible advice from Dawkins' corner. Like, his corner said, find that jab to the body. Like, stick that jab to the body. And I just went, what? Oh God, why? And Talia's like, why is that a bad thing? Oh, I see why. And you see, like, Dawkins, like, he didn't like getting hit by Blades Blades found that cross in the first round, and then Dawkins put himself in front of it because he tried to find that jab to the body.
On weigh-in day, Curtis had like 20 pounds on him.
Also
it's like,
not good.
Damn, probably like 30 or 40 pounds on you on fight night. But it's also like
he put himself back in front of that right hand. And he put his head like, and here's the thing about finding that jab to the body. If someone already knows they found that cross, and you want to find a jab to the body, you're putting yourself back in front of the cross that just hit you. And you saw that he was already nervous from committing to that space.
Yeah.
He got hit in that first round. His eyes were like, oh no. And then that second round, he was like, okay, let me try to find a go to that body. He engaged in a little bit, and he kept looking for it. And then Blaze just skibbity scooped, boot.
Dawkins is a good example of like a guy who was just a little too good too early, and how shallow heavyweight is. You're gonna get to the top of the pile really easily.
Yeah.
You take a fight on short notice against Derek Lewis, and you get knocked out, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I'll go back to fighting a number 10 guy. But the UFC's like, no, we're gonna put you in there against another like top 3 or 4 guy, because honestly, there's not really. We just let go of Greg Hardy. There's no really else.
Yeah, like if Aspinall just, goddamn, like Aspinall versus Blade, I'm not Blades, but Aspinall versus Dawkins, would do you think they would do that?
No.
Yeah,
no, I don't think so.
They're going to need to give Dawkins some time.
I think Aspinall's really hot right now, and they're going to they're probably going to put him in the position that Dawkins was in.
I couldn't believe that Dawkins took a fight that quick after getting knocked out like that against Derek Lewis, man.
I couldn't either. And
he said he was like, there were no psychological, he said, that there were no psychological effects.
But when you have brain damage, how would you know?
Yeah. Hey, as it turns out, it takes you sometimes a couple days to realize that you've had a stroke.
The police department's like, we have investigated ourselves from corruption and found that we're completely innocent of all wrongdoing. And it's just like, bro, you can't self-check yourself for CTE in the mirror. It's just not how it works.
Trust me, it doesn't work well.
You need to check in with your wife. You need to check in with your fucking family.
But you saw, as soon as he got hit out there, he was like, I don't want to be here. Or he was checked out. And I was like, oh, there's that Derek Lewis knockout. And then it reared its ugly head in the second round because he went out again bad.
Yeah.
Really you can take some time off and come back okay. But, bro, you got to give that brain some time to heal, man. Take some turmeric. Some lion's mane.
Some of that mud water.
Some of that mud water.
That's really the only fight that was worth talking about this past weekend, honestly. I think
the Gutierrez, talked about him earlier.
Oh, yes.
That spinning back fist knockout.
Back fist knockout, huge for him.
Man, his kids, you got to watch his footwork. He has, the modern MMA footwork down pat. I feel for a striker working on his counter wrestling and his MMA, his counter wrestling, MMA wrestling, everything like that, his off the cage striking, he's got great footwork to watch. Mm-hmm. If you're someone that doesn't have a wrestling background but wants to fight up, down, in, out, off the cage, he's someone to watch. He goes to the body very well for entries, and he uses that space to set up that spinning back fist. I love.
So next week we'll be back with a preview of Fight For It, a show that's taking place April 9th. In Spartanburg. I'll be on the call with Seth Stevenson and Taylor Starling. Trevor will be in coach mode. You have a Hunter.
I got a Hunter in a kickboxing match, Talia in an MMA fight, and I've been helping Trevor Loken a bit for his title fight.
Title fight. Big fight for him against Kevin Peraza. That's gonna be. We'll have a full card preview for you guys next week on that. And we'll probably be talking about the UFC because Volkanovski's gonna be taking on Korean Zombie.
Yeah, that's right.
Pretty good card underneath that as well, so we'll have plenty to talk about next week on the 10-8 Fightcast. We thank you guys for tuning in. We're happy to be back from our break. We'll be resuming our regularly scheduled programming next week. We'll see you guys soon.